here we go. I've seen most of these, by the way, so it's not really new for me. First card, Bone Club, 5 mana, 4/4. I think this will see play, but not massively, so I think it can see play. And the reason is, we've seen one card that copies stats of an equipment, right? Have we not? Have we not seen a card, it was like 2 mana, copy the stats of an equipment, and pass the equipment to a different unit? Yeah, from Targon. Just with that, this might see play. Second of all, how many equipments do we have in Freljord so far? Is this the first Freljord equipment we've seen? First one. And we're assuming Ornn is coming out and is going to be Freljord. And from all the regions, we basically are getting like one piece of equipment per region almost. So I'm guessing this is the Freljord equipment. Maybe there's going to be one more. So if we want to build like an Ornn deck, we might have to use this in that. Third of all, yeah. Isn't this a better Sejuani card? No, Sejuani uses spell mana. Does this use spell mana? Wait, does this use spell mana? I forgot. Yes, it does. Okay, it does. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent because it doesn't go away. Now, Sejuani's one costs 4 mana and his burst speed. It's a combat trick. This isn't. But 4/4 is a lot of stats on overwhelm units, for example. You play this on Trundle. You can. I mean, in general, I think this will only see play in equipment decks. I think this is equipment decks. Because you need equipment, right? The Targon card shows us that this gets massive value from it. But other than the Targon card, we don't really have any other ways to really take advantage of the massive stats this is giving us. Well, we don't have it yet. We haven't seen all the cards yet. I think it's an okay card. As is, like, okay, let me put it this way. If this is all the cards we're getting so far, I'm going to say this wouldn't see play. But, and this is a big but, we've not seen the Freljord stuff yet. We have not seen really the Freljord synergies yet. So there's no reason to play Freljord equipment. Right now, all the best equipments are what? Shadow Isles, maybe Targon, maybe Ionia. Like, we've seen nothing from Freljord. And this is the exclusive Freljord equipment piece. Maybe it works with Ornn, possibly. I have a suspicion this will work once we see the rest of the cards. But as is, yeah, I'm going to say this will probably see a little bit of play. It's pretty mediocre for what it does. Like, if it was just brought into the game right now, I don't really think it would see much play. Maybe it would see it play like Fizz, because Fizz Freljord is a thing, but other than that, I'm not sure. No, this had Overwhelm, this would be broken. This would be a broken card if it had Overwhelm. You play this like on a double attack unit and you just win the game. No, it's pretty cool. It's a cool card. I think it might see play once we see more Freljord stuff. Other than that, not really much to say. It's a basic stat stick. But the fact that it's equipment, and we've already seen one card that interacts with equipments by copying its stats, that's kind of cool. Cultist, Keeper of the Box. 2 mana, 2/2, fearsome. Once you've equipped an ally this game, grant me lifesteal. So it's a 2 mana, 2/2 lifesteal. Dude, these kinds of cards are great anti-aggro cards. It's so strong anti-aggro. It really is. That's a solid card. I don't think the fearsome's that important. This is more of a defensive card. It's good that it can't be blocked by 2 attack units. And you can always give a quick attack if you're playing equipments, right? Yep, pretty solid card. Very good for control decks. We haven't had a really good 2 mana lifesteal. We have a 3 mana 2/2 lifesteal, right? We got this guy. And funny enough, I actually tried playing this before a few times. This card as well, this is an amazing card, 3 mana 3/2 lifesteal. This is an amazing card, 3 mana 4/2 lifesteal. That card on its own, yeah, it's a 2 mana 2/2 lifesteal. Solid stats. Now, you do need to equip something for the lifesteal. Yeah, early lifesteal is very strong. Versus aggro especially. It trades 1/1 and it heals you for 2. Solid. Solid card. If you equip it, yeah, if you give it quick attack, it's insane. You give this quick attack and it's insane. Also, if you're playing versus aggro, some of the time, if you're attacking on 2, they have no blocker for it. Because they have only 2 attack units. Turn 1, they play a 2/1. Turn 2, they play like House Spider. You get to heal for 4 off of this if you're attacking on 2s, which is crazy to think about. Sometimes even heal for 6 if it blocks a 1/1. So yeah, very, very good card. It's a cultist card as well. True, that's a good point. Quietus. 1 mana, kill a unit with 2 or less power, destroy unit's equipment. Insane. This might be the best card we've seen so far in the game. Not even kidding. Not even kidding. It destroys so many cards. No, this is crazy. Not only like, okay, there's a lot of memes like this. Okay, first of all, this doesn't kill Galio because he has spell shield, but still. This kills like half the meta cards. Funny enough, like Well, not the meta cards, but like it kills half the champions in the game. Like Poppy dies to this. Vagar dies to this. Braum is one of my favorite cards. He dies to this, obviously. But forget about all of that. There's some important things to think about. What about like Ash decks? Jesus. Any Frostbite decks? Holy crap. The Freljord -2 attack card, which plays in every Freljord deck. Holy smokes. My goodness, there's some crazy things you can do with this. Like, there's some crazy combos with this. Zombie Anivia. Yeah. Yeah, Anivia decks. Absolutely. I could see it. Good with Kindred. Amazing with Kindred. Sure. This might be a card that sees a nerf. I wouldn't even be shocked if they make this like 1 or less power. Just because it's so strong with Frostbite. If it was follower instead of unit, that would be a massive nerf. Because this hits champions. 3 mana Frostbite, 1 mana Kind of Vengeance. Yeah, it's a 2 move play, right? Like, you don't want to spend 2 cards removing 1 card very often. I would be more like happy to do like for example the 2 mana cost like this guy, like Iceveil Archer into that is a very good tempo play because you get a 3/1 out of it, right? You're not just paying 2 mana to freeze, you're getting a 3/1 off of it. So that's a much stronger play, I think. But yeah, very strong. I think strongest card you might have seen. Scarily strong. And the thing is, I love playing Shadow Isles control. What would I do with this? Like, if I want to play like Go Hard control, I usually play this with PNZ. How could I pair this with Freljord? Shadow Isles Freljord. I don't know. I'm going to definitely play around with this card a lot. Really, really strong. Malefic Spear. If an ally died this round, it costs 2 less. And it gives Fearsome. Jesus, that's pretty strong, dude. That is pretty dang strong. That's scarily strong, yeah. Kindred could use this very easily. Who else would use this very easily? Undying wouldn't be bad to use this. Like, in an Undying deck, no Kappa. One of the weaker parts of Undying is he gets blocked by 1/1s, right? Like, you can't chump block him because he has Fearsome now. It's kind of scary. Pretty solid card. I wouldn't say broken, but pretty solid. The DARKIN HALBERD. Now, this is a cool one. I saw this one. I didn't really read what this does, but I know it exists. So, 1 mana +2/+2 to play me kill an ally. Now, this is insane. This is actually a positive. I'm not even kidding. This is probably a positive thing. Like, you want to kill your own allies in Shadow Isles very often. That's crazy. So, it's 1 mana 2/2 and kill an ally. That's crazy. Now, on top of that, we have the option to spend 10 mana to play Terosh. 10 mana, 10/10 each round. The first time I attack, fill your attackers with revived ephemeral copies of the strongest followers you've slain this game. Now, what's really scary about that is in Shadow Isles decks where you slay stuff, you quite often slay with Chronicler onto stuff like Rekindler, right? If that brings back Rekindler, that's so strong because now you get your champions back for free, right? So that makes you very happy. Like, you just get your champions back. Pretty nutty. Now, here's another one. Let's say you're playing it. This is a fun one, actually. You guys might like this one. Let's say you're playing 3 copies of the DARKIN HALBERD, right? In a control deck. Like, the first time you play Terosh, right? You drop him. You attack. Your opponent does Vengeance. You glimpse. What happens if you glimpse this and you play a second one? It'll bring back this one, which will bring back another this one, which will bring back another this one. You'll get a full board of 10/10s attacking. It summons itself, which summons itself, which summons itself, because it's an attack. It summons it attacking, right? If I'm not mistaken. Wouldn't you get infinite 10/10s on attack? Yeah, it's the first time it attacks, but the other one hasn't attacked yet. The problem is, I guess this might fill your board before the second one can even proc. That might be a thing. This one might fill your board with other units before the second one procs. That could happen. The only way it will work is if nothing else died, which is doable. You could make a deck where you don't kill your own units ever, except for killing off your Terosh. That's a little bit memeish, right? Still, it's doable to make an infinite Terosh, where you attack with 1 Terosh and you get a full board of Teroshes attacking. The only requirement would be not to kill off any of your own units. Doesn't work that way, Papaya? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, slaying enemy units counts as well. That's a good point. So if you vengeance a really strong enemy unit, it brings it back. True. Yeah, so I guess enemy units will be taking up slots, sure. It's very hard to make it go infinite. Passage unearned buff, true. Actually, true. It doesn't kill the original one, though. It only kills whatever he summons. Enemy can screw up revive options by playing cards with more than X attack. Yeah, sure. It's true. But very, very cool card. Whenever you have a card that can be both early game and late game, that's insane. That's so scary because it doesn't have a deck building cost. Like, let's say this was just this. Let's say it didn't have the Terosh part. It's still a 1 mana 2/2 kill your own unit, which we'll see play in some decks. But the problem is, what happens when you're top decking, you top deck this card? It sucks. It costs you the game. Very often, when you're end game and you have no more cards left and you top deck an early game card, it costs you the game. How many times have we played a really cool deck and we're at mana 10, we have no cards in hand, we top deck like Omen Hawk, and we just say, crap, stupid, right? Imagine if Omen Hawk had an option, pay 10 mana and summon Omen Bear. What? All of a sudden, Omen Hawk is an amazing card because it never really breaks your top decks. So, overall, I like that. It's a very, very, very strong card because of that. Very, very cool. 5 mana burst. Heal your Nexus for 4. And grant all allies and equipment in your deck +1/+1. Draw one of them. Keep in mind, this doesn't buff the equipment from Weapon Masters. Okay? So it's not as busted as you would think it would be. It's really not that busted. It doesn't buff Weapon Master's equipment because that equipment is generated. Also doesn't buff stuff in your hand. It's only your deck. It's kind of slow. I don't know, dude. I think you play this as like a one-of. I think you play it as a one-of. Compare this to Revna. Let's compare this to Revna, for example. You can play on turn 3. You can, but you do 5 mana, do nothing on turn 3. It's a big loss of tempo. I don't think you play 3 copies of this. I think you play 1, maybe 2. Heal 4, yeah, but you develop nothing on board. You allow the opponent to swarm you. Nobody star shaping on mana 3. What do you mean? You never star shaping mana 3. Star shaping is a late game card. You keep it in hand. Even if you're at 15 HP, you're going to lose the game if you star shaping mana 3. Because you just spent 5 mana healing face without developing board. And then mana 4 or 5, you take another 20 damage. You play control decks with Karma. How can you say it's slow? Because when you play control decks with Karma, usually these kinds of cards, you play them at the end of the game to win the game. You play this on mana 10, 11, 12, right? But at that point, you play it, and it still gives you no value. You still have to draw the cards that it buffs. This card, you want to play it really early, but it's really hard to play it really early. That's the problem. Yeah, but like when you play it end game, it's a little bit late for its effect. This effect is amazing early game, but how do you get away with 5 mana do nothing early game versus an aggro world? It's for early, you can ramp. That doesn't matter if you can ramp early. Then you're losing even more tempo. Overall, I think it's an okay card. I think you play one of. I think it's a one of. Catalyst? Yeah, but Catalyst does not do nothing. It pays itself off immediately almost. Because you get a bigger mana next turn. You can play bigger units. It's a ramp card. It gets you to your win condition way faster. You spent 5 mana doing nothing. Healing is nothing early game. Healing early game sucks. Do you know when healing is good early game? Healing is good early game whenever you leave a unit behind. For example, this is a great card early game because it gives you heal 3 for 3, but also a 3/3 on board. Like that. So this 3/3 can block up to 2 units. I mean, if the meta is very slow, sure. Play this on mana 3, then play this on mana 5, sure. If the meta is super slow, if everyone's playing endgame control, yeah, throw 3 of these in. You'll get a million value out of it. But the problem is if you're running into tons of aggro, tons of like early game finishers, which we're going to see, like Kai'Sa's still going to be a thing. People are still going to have a 6/6 leveled Kai'Sa with a 6/6 overwhelm 4 drop on mana 5. And you spent your turn 2 pass, turn 3 playing this basically pass. So you spent 5 mana passing, and you're being attacked by like 18 stats on mana 5 by Kai'Sa's. How are you going to survive that? Sure, you'll be drawing a unit that has +1/+1 on it. That's not enough. But this is true for every deck. Unless you're playing versus Pirate Aggro. Mana 1, they play 3/2, they hit you for 3. You're down to 17. Mana 2, you pass. They put 2 more 1-drops. Now they have 8 attack on board. Mana 3 comes around. They develop another, let's say a 2-drop and a 1-drop. They have, let's say, 14 attack on board. They swing. Do you really now spend 5 mana to heal for 4 after you're down to 3 HP? 5 mana heal for 4? Like, no, at that point you need to be doing way more. You need to be dropping down your... versus aggro, you have to have a 1-drop, you have to have a 2-drop, you have to have a 3-drop to block on all 3 streets. On 4-drop, you can start thinking about things like Ravine to slow them down. You can think of Avalanche to slow them down. They wouldn't develop into... Did you not see... It literally happened yesterday where they did. They absolutely do. Especially if people try to make this card work. You make big lifesteal units after. Possibly. But the problem is, you still spent mana 2 and mana 3 doing nothing. Like, this is good later game. This is decent later game. Like, mana 9, they play Decimate. You play 5 mana burst, heal for 4. Great, you just heal for 4. It's a good heal. But mana 9, you're not getting that much value out of this. You're getting okay value out of it, not amazing value. So for that reason, I think it's like a 1-of. If you're playing versus aggro and you have 2 of these in your hand, you're in trouble. Because you cannot play this card until late game versus aggro. I don't know how to explain it. When you play versus aggro, your first 4 to 5 turns have to be removing their board or matching their board. There's no other way around it. You have to play blockers or you have to play removal. If you don't do either of those 2 things, you lose the game. I mean, versus aggro, like, versus aggro, you don't keep Catalyst in hand, even in a ramp deck. If you have Catalyst and a few other cards, you mulligan this away. You can't play ramp on 3 versus aggro. You simply cannot. It's too slow. Now, if you have Avalanche plus Ravine plus something, maybe you can play ramp on it. But you're still not playing this on mana 3. You're playing Avalanche on mana 3. You're playing Ravine on mana 4. People have been playing Pirates. Yeah, it's one of the most played decks. Aggro is pretty popular right now. So yeah, in general, this card cannot really see play on mana 3 unless the meta is slow. Like, let's say, for example, you're playing in a meta with a lot of aggro and whatnot. You play 1 copy of it, and you run into Tryndamere Trundle deck, right? That's a slow deck. I'll definitely pass and do this on 3. Absolutely. Why? Because it's a great turn 3 play. There's no way to pressure that deck early. So yeah, we play for value. So in some matchups, this is amazing on mana 3. But the problem is, running 3 copies of it, it's really hard to do because it's going to be a dead card way too often versus most matchups. So yeah, it'll depend. I don't think you run more than 1 copy, maybe 2. I don't think you can... Like, yeah, if the entire meta's control, you run 3 copies, and you just love the fact you can run 3, but I don't see the entire meta being control, so I don't see it. This is not a 3-of in my mind. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. It's a good card, but it's a late game card to play. You don't play this early in most metas. You have to play this late versus most decks. Some decks you can play it early and get massive value, though. Absolutely. Some decks you can drop this on 3 and win. In mirror matchups with weapons, you can play this early and win. Versus things like maybe slower mid-range decks like Scouts, you might be able to get away with playing this early and win. Any deck like, let's say, Poppy Terric, you might be able to play this early and win. Like, there are decks you can play this early against, but there's too many decks where you can't. You rarely play this on 3 in most matchups, I think. Like, let's look at the matchups in all seriousness. Let's look at all decks in the meta by play rate. So matches, play rate. Misfortune, Twisted Fate. You cannot hold that in your opening mulligan, usually. I mean, you can if you want to keep a 5 mana heal 4, but you can't play it early. You play this when you're about to get decimated to death. You save it for the end. So you can't. Evelyn Viego. Kind of hard to play early, but possible. But possible. You need other stuff to find, but it's possible to play early versus this deck. Elise Katarina, you can't play it early versus this deck. This deck is too fast, too many 1-drops. It'll swarm you down and kill you. Kindred Nasus, depends on the version, but in general, if they're opening with stuff like it depends on the version. Like this version you could, this version you might be able to. Possibly. Senna Vagar, You definitely can. Play it early. Poppy Tarek. I don't think you can. Maybe, but you usually need to have board presence so that Poppy doesn't get a full board. If you allow him to have like 4 units on board, you're in trouble. Akshan Kaisa, you definitely can't. Kaisa by itself, you definitely can't. Ezreal Kennen, I'm not sure. You can. It depends on the matchup. It'll really depend. But it depends how much we see of this, which is massive. Like, this is already 8% play rate, right? Like, 8% of the time you can't. Onto that, another 7%, that's 15% you can't. So 15% of the time you can't. Yeah. It'll depend. It'll depend on the meta. It'll depend what we run into in the meta. Yeah, the Lifesteal 2/2 is really sick. It's a very strong card. I agree. I think it's a good one-of. I do. I would play in almost every deck that runs any equipment as a one-of. No. I was doing My Lahi. And then there it is. Allo. Salut. Suis Dieu un Hajduk. Jitero. You will be the Master. Anyway, I was doing the song, but you guys missed it. Disappointing you, chat. Your meme knowledge is lacking.